Scores of firefighters and over 30 engine companies successfully battle a major blaze at Paramount Studios, but not before millions of dollars in damage occurred. The Channel 13 News is next.
Channel 13, KCOP, Los Angeles. A Chris Craft television station.
Good evening. More than 50 years of Hollywood film history turned into so much smoke this evening. A fierce fire tore through some irreplaceable sets and sound stages at Paramount Studios in the heart of Hollywood. Jack Popejoy has a story.
When the fire erupted at 4 o'clock this afternoon, carpenter Tony Saso was working among the outdoor sets right in the center of the Paramount lot.
Coming down by New York Street 16 when it blew in the center of the street, and then when it caught, it went quick. We tried to save the 40-foot semi there, but it got too hot for us, so we just split.
Do you have any idea how it started yet?
No, nobody does yet.
McFadden, Church, Boston, and New York streets were all engulfed in the firestorm by the time 34 engine companies and more than 150 firefighters could get their equipment inside the lot. By then, the flames were bursting through the roofs of sound stages 14 and 15, and soon 16. Movies like Chinatown, Catch-22, and Marathon Man had been filmed inside, and the sets were nearly completed for the movie Star Trek III, whose start date will now almost surely be delayed. Although damage will exceed $3 million, the only injuries were minor electrical shock to 2 firefighters early on. While huge street crowds gathered, smoke and intense heat also blew into the cemetery and mausoleum next door, where Rudolph Valentino is buried, for example, and flying embers ignited the roof and a couple of palm trees. Because of the extremely dry old wood construction on the lot, plus all the dust and asbestos inside the sound stages, the situation was considered unstable into the night, even when the visible flames had been knocked down.
Because of the widespread damage, the fire covered an area approximately 500 feet by 500 feet, and all of that being filled with combustible material, outdoor sets, sound stages, and so forth. With 150 to 200 firefighters, you can realize the full extent, size of this fire, and to make sure that everything is completely out before we leave, which is what we'll do, we will sift through every bit of that, and it's going to take a long time to do that.
Among the movies shot on that set over the years were The Godfather, Love Me Tender, Elvis Presley's first, scenes from Evita. It's been used more for TV shows, however, in recent years. Laverne and Shirley, for example, Nero, Wolf, Boomer, Police Squad. In fact, it goes all the way back to The Untouchables on this set. Jack Popejoy reporting from what's left of New York Street at the Paramount Studios in Hollywood.
That's our top story tonight. Still ahead on the Channel 13 News Hour, a look at President Reagan's reception in the Southland today as he continues to court the Latin vote.
From Channel 13, Los Angeles, World Network News, with Susan Shaw and Charlie O'Donnell.
The accent was on Latin success stories as President Reagan had lunch with Hispanic business and professional leaders in Los Angeles today. Inside the hall, it was all smiles and applause. Outside, there were some angry dissenters. We have reports on both aspects of the presidential visit. The first from Mark May.
For the third time in 2 weeks, President Reagan addressed Hispanic leaders. The objective, to woo that sector of the electorate, something the president was able to do very effectively.
To every cynic who says the American dream is dead, I say, look at the Americans of Hispanic descent who are making it in the business world. With hard work and no one to rely on but themselves, entrepreneurs of Hispanic descent are not just building corporations, they're building a better America for all of us.
Aside from appeasing his audience, the president took advantage of the opportunity to pat himself on the back.
When we got to Washington, inflation was running at double-digit levels and had been doing so for 2 years straight. Our senior citizens helplessly watched as the value of their savings eroded. Poor and middle-class working people saw their real wages and their standard of living begin to shrink. Well, together, we've licked inflation, and we're never going back to the policies that unleashed this monster on the American people.
Hispanic support could be very important to President Reagan. There are more than 360,000 Hispanic-owned businesses in this country, generating nearly $18 billion in sales each year. But not all Hispanics are successful. Many remain unemployed, an issue the president admits is disappointing.
The suffering of the unemployed is a deep concern to me, and don't let anyone tell you differently. But let me ask you, do you think that going back to the policies that dragged our economy down and set fire to inflation will really help the unemployed? Or would you agree that the best way to help all Americans is to continue the reforms that have brought down inflation?
Channel 13, KCOP, Los Angeles. A Chris Craft television station.